What's going on, world? This is Derek J. You're listening to Peace News Now. We're live this Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. You can call in, share your thoughts, stories of peaceful resistance by dialing in 443-424-8347 or send a Skype contact request to user PeaceNewsNow. Your contact request will, of course, be accepted, and I'll put you on the air. You can also tweet me at DerekJMe, or watch, listen, chat online at derekj.me or lrn.fm. That's the Liberty Radio Network. So good to be with you. This show is a live call-in show, obviously, and we talk about stories of peaceful resistance here. Coming up, we've got stories about CopBlockers arrested in Arlington, Texas. Reddit declares itself a new form of government. What millennials think about politics. In fact, I was down at a college today campaigning for a millennial among millennials, and I found a lot of voter apathy. But you probably already knew that. Well, we've got the studies to confirm it, plus a recap of today's outreach for James Cleveland, Robin Hood of Keene. He had a primary today and lost, spoiler alert, but you know, power to him for trying. Seems like he had a lot of fun. I know, being a part of his campaign, I had a lot of fun. We'll discuss that. Panera Bread is now asking their customers not to bring guns into their store. We have that story. And eBay announces its first foray into Bitcoin with Braintree. What does it all mean? We've got these stories and more, plus your calls. Let's get right into it by starting with the cop watchers arrested for video recording in Arlington, Texas. This story was published today, September 9th, 2014. Take a listen. This from Fox News.
Cop watchers at scenes and investigations. They videotape and often haggle and hassle officers. Well, now, after the first arrest, the police chief is talking about the concerns and how they have been handling these situations. Brandon Todd is in our Fort Worth newsroom right now with an interview you'll see only on Fox 4. Brandon.
Yeah, Chief Will Johnson sat down with me and discussed this problem that has been going on for several months. He said there's a fine line between shooting video and interfering with a police investigation, and he said this weekend that line was crossed.
How much you're being detained? Do not.
This is the video that cop watchers are calling an assault. It's posted on Facebook. Saturday night, Arlington police pull a driver over. The Tarrant County Peaceful Streets Project is rolling video, and at some point, Janie Lucero is arrested.
I'm going to run the range.
Lucero is the wife of Corey Watkins, president of Open Carry Tarrant County, an outspoken critic of Arlington police. He was arrested that night, along with fellow watcher Joseph Ty.
An officer has to be able to do the job that the community has asked them to do.
Arlington Police Chief Will Johnson says his officers are used to being recorded on camera and seeing videos like this posted online. In this particular instance, he says his officers on scene asked around 20 or so people, many of them shooting video of the traffic stop, to step back to a certain distance to give his officers room to work.
With any type of external variables, whether it might be cars or roadway or speed or people, pedestrians, that might distract them from their ability to do their job.
Normally, all we see is video posted by the cop watchers, but in this case, Arlington police released some of their video to Fox 4 News. From the dash camera of a backup officer, this is what the officer saw when he arrived on scene. The person you hear yelling at the officer is Corey Watkins.
You about to hit my wife with your
Johnson says the watchers were surrounding his officers from three sides. And as you see in this video, Corey Watkins was armed with a black powder pistol, which is legal to open carry in Texas.
That they're responsible for the safety of those that are on the scene that they are conducting. And we have to make sure that all parties' interests are represented in that.
The attorney for Watkins and his wife, Alex Kim, says Watkins was minding his business, complied with officers' requests, and was arrested anyway.
They were quiet. They weren't disturbing anybody. They were on a sidewalk on a public street just recording the police like they're entitled to do.
Kim says Watkins was arrested in the same area he was asked to stand by police.
And then one officer came around and grabbed her individually and started pulling her out, and that's when she jerked away. My inclination is things mostly because she didn't even know who was grabbing her. It was just kind of a knee-jerk reaction.
Chief Johnson says he has asked for dialogue with these groups.
We haven't been able to get anyone to accept that invitation. We're still open to doing that.
Now, Chief Johnson also pointed out that night, 2 times prior to that incident, there were traffic stops that were being recorded by multiple people, and he says, Steve, in those particular cases, there were no issues whatsoever.
2 questions quickly on that first one. Were the same people involved in the protest or possibly different at the different locations?
It's likely that they were the same people, okay. A group of people gathered together videotaping, but he had no way of knowing what names or what specific people were at all 3 of those.
Got it. And if our viewers are watching closely, they've seen that there is an Arlington police officer recording, not just the dash cam, holding a camera. Did the chief talk about why they're doing this?
Right, you do see that on one of those. He didn't address that particular officer, but did say it isn't any sort of directive that he's given his officers to go ahead and start videotaping. Instead, something that they would do on their own. He suggested it might even be that officer was wanting to protect himself and make sure that if the dash camera isn't picking up something, that he is.
Okay, Brandon Todd in the Fort Worth Newsroom, thank you.
Okay, so there you have it. The police officer was recording video of the cop watchers. Why? Well, as the news reports, because he wants to protect himself. He wants to create an objective record of what's happening in the world around him. So why is it wrong when people do it to the police? It should be a question that we're asking ourselves. The Arlington, Texas CopBlockers certainly have a lot of courage to get close into the police interactions. They're standing on the sidewalk, as reported by the news media, saying he was arrested. Corey Watkins was arrested in the very same place he was standing, told by police to stand back. This happens a lot. If you've done any cop blocking, police will often acknowledge you for filming them and then say, stand here, or so, so that they feel safe. I can understand that. They feel a lot of pressure in their job, even though the likelihood that a person is going to do harm to them is very low, and the likelihood that they're going to do harm to others is very high. Still, they feel threatened in their job. So if people are willing to give and take a little bit and stand where the officers tell them to, well, they should be fine to be able to record from there. But as we saw, even that wasn't enough. Corey Watkins, of course, called into this program just 2 days ago on Sunday to report I believe a different incident about his cop blocking adventures, but it's a shame. He and his girlfriend were apparently arrested. You could see him in the video clearly upset that the police officer's dash cam almost drove right into his girlfriend. I would be upset too. It's tough to maintain composure around police, around these high-pressure situations, but that is absolutely the best thing to do. Stay calm, be polite. It's always the best thing to do. And it looks like he has some legal representation. We saw Attorney Kim is his legal representative, repeated the fact that he was arrested in the very same place he was told to stand. So just something to consider. What else do we have from this story from Examiner.com? Well, Gary Reed writes, Arlington, Texas has joined the long list of American cities where police officers arrest people for standing on public property and video record officers carrying out their public duties in public places. News outlets in the Metroplex reported Monday that Corey Watkins, his wife Janie Lucero, it's his wife, I wasn't clear on that, and Joseph Ty were arrested during a Saturday night police stop and that they were in the process of shooting video. All 3 were members or participants in a group of some 20 activists with cop-watching organizations, Texas Cop Block and the Tarrant County Peaceful Streets Project, converged on a traffic stop in Arlington Saturday night to video record the incident. As more activists arrived on the scene, the Dallas Observer reported, quote, about 10 police cars and more than 20 officers joined them. What apparently had happened was that 3 activists who had been told by officers on the scene to step back to a certain distance to give officers room to work were arrested by other officers arriving to the scene for committing the crime of standing where the first officers had already told them to stand. We'll come to your stories, plus we've got more from this Arlington, Texas arrest. This is Peace News Now.
Ross Ulbricht was arrested by the FBI in 2013 and charged with victimless crimes in relation to allegedly operating the Bitcoin-based Silk Road black market. He has been in a prison cell awaiting trial ever since. If he did it, he's a hero for making the black market a safer place. If he did not, he's a man wrongfully accused. Either way, if you love freedom and want to end the war on drugs, Ross and his family need your support. You can learn more and help fund his defense at freeross.org. That's freeross.org. On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
The three most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
Americans are reeling from Obamacare, higher prices, and an epidemic of policy lapses. AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com has you covered. World-class medical and surgery at one of Asia's most modern hospitals. 300 doctors, surgeons, and dentists serving 300,000 patients a year. Fractions of U.S. prices. Friends or family forced to go out of pocket? Avoid bankruptcy. Tell them to run. Run like hell. Hit us up now. We'll show you how. AsiaRunLikeHellGuide.com.
If you can't listen to the Liberty Radio Network's internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309. Are you looking for an excuse to come check out New Hampshire this fall? You're invited to Keenvention. Keenvention is your chance to meet dozens of key liberty activists from across the Shire. You can explore the beautiful little city of Keene, discuss various forms of activism with seasoned veterans, do some Robin Hooding, and learn about making the move. Keenvention received rave reviews last year. If you missed it, visit keenvention.info for full video coverage of every speaker and panel. This year, Rich Paul is our first announced keynote speaker, and more are being announced now at keenvention.info. Join old and new friends and neighbors in Keene for Keenvention this October 31st through November 2nd. You can pre-order your tickets now for just $60 at keenvention.info, or you can pay with Bitcoin. Visit keenvention.info for more information and to lock in your tickets at the pre-order $60 price for the whole weekend. Visit keenvention.info for more, or look for our page and event on Facebook. That's keenvention.info.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Welcome back, everybody. You are listening to Peace News at LRN.fm. I neglected to mention that you can also check out the show at our website, PeaceNewsNow.com. If you click the link that says Listen Live, you'll see a chat room, live video, as well as audio listening options so that you can tune in any way that's most comfortable for you. Love to see the discussion happening in the chat as we continue with this story from Examiner.com, where Gary Reed writes about cop watchers in Arlington, Texas, who have been arrested for doing nothing more than recording video of police officers. Well, the Dallas Observer reported that about 10 police cars and more than 20 officers joined the activists because what had apparently happened was the 3 activists who were told by police officers on the scene to step back to a certain distance to give them room to work were arrested by other officers arriving late to the scene for committing the crime of standing where the first officers had already told them to stand. So you get it. Some officers were there. They told them where to stand. New officers arrived, and they were like, "You're too close. You're under arrest." What are they to do? They're wrong if they do what the officers say, and they're wrong if they don't. The only right answer, really, I guess, is to go home, stop recording the police, stop caring about accountability, because there's too much danger. You're going to be arrested. You're going to be thrown in a cage. You might be hit. You might be brutalized. These are all real possibilities. You could be charged with a serious crime and then have years of rape in a state cage. That can happen and does happen. So these people who go out and film the police, in my mind, are heroes, and more people need to step up to the plate and do the same. Arlington Police Chief Will Johnson was quoted by my Fox DFW as saying, quote, "There's a fine line between shooting video and interfering with the police investigation," and then claimed that the line had been crossed without ever identifying what that line is. There's also no definition of what a certain distance is. Corey Watkins, who called into the program 2 days ago, president of the Open Carry Tarrant County group, is a controversial activist who's made headlines nationwide by leading groups in open carry walks with long guns slung over their shoulders in support of open carry rights in Texas, and has been described as an outspoken critic of Arlington police. All 3 were charged with, quote, interfering with a police investigation, and they had their phones and cameras confiscated. So we won't see any of the videos, at least not for a few months until the trial comes out. Typical charges and actions in virtually all video recording cases nationwide, the interfering with the police investigation and having their recording devices stolen, while others continued to record without being charged or having their cameras taken. So these 3 were chosen while others were left untouched. CopBlock is a decentralized national organization founded by well-known libertarian activists Adamo Freeman and Pete Eyre, heroes of mine. The Peaceful Streets Project was started by Antonio Buehler in Austin. Libertarians have long noted that law and order champions love to say, if citizens are doing nothing wrong, they have nothing to fear from the police. Yet, they never seem to say, if the police are doing nothing wrong, they have nothing to fear from the citizens. Interesting. Well, I applaud the efforts of cop blockers and cop watchers everywhere. It is so important to get an objective record of what is happening in the world around you, especially in a world where, as some courts have ruled, a cop's word is more reliable than video evidence. Well, you may lose in the state court, but you're always winning in the court of public opinion when you're able to show the truth in any situation, whether it be you acting badly, a regular criminal acting badly, or a badged criminal acting badly. We continue with more stories. Reddit declares itself a new form of government. So could this be part of the growing solution? Technology empowering the individual past the point of being able to be controlled. That sound means we're getting a call on Skype. Chris Cantwell, you are on Peace News Now. Go ahead with your thoughts.
I sure am, and I'm so glad to be here, Derek. Thank you for having me.
What's up, man?
I think it's important to really draw a very firm distinction between CopBlock and Peaceful Streets Project.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
We even saw this in Keene. Like, there were CopBlockers out, and then Garrett Ian went out to do what did he call it? Peaceful Cop Block Watch. Like, he would go after CopBlockers to watch them as if CopBlockers were out antagonizing the police. When what we've seen repeatedly, I mean, Peaceful Streets Project is founded by Antonio Buehler, who is known for screaming and yelling on the side of the highway like a lunatic. And we heard the audio from this gentleman whose wife or girlfriend was kidnapped, where he's screaming and cursing at the police, and you know, the police are obviously violent, dangerous criminals, and I understand people treating them poorly. Don't get me wrong, but there's a really important distinction to be drawn here that Peaceful Streets Project is anything but. They have a real serious habit. They've been trained to really be antagonistic and problematic.
I hadn't realized that there was such a distinction between the two groups. I thought Cop Watch, Cop Block, Peaceful Streets, aren't their goals all the same, to record the police?
Well, their goals may be purported to be the same, but I think there's certainly a difference in tactics. You never saw like Adamo or Pete screaming at the police, right?
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't see them.
But do you see Antonio Bueller screaming at the police, calling them racists and bigots on the side of the highway like a lunatic?
Unfortunately, I do see that pretty regularly. I wish it weren't the case.
Yeah, so I just wanted to draw that distinction because it seemed like you were using like Cop Block and Peaceful Streets sort of interchangeably, and I thought it was really important to point that out. That's all I wanted to say.
I appreciate that, Chris. And, you know, Chris, we were together today. We were campaigning for James Cleveland. How do you feel about the results? Have you heard? James lost, so voter apathy won.
Well, I'm not at all surprised by that. I mean, look, I think it was really, I think it was a great thing for James to go onto the college campus and try to reach out to the kids. I think that's an important thing to do. But we also know that they're not enthusiastic about anything unless they're like left-wing ideologues, right? So I unfortunately am not surprised by the fact that the college kids did not come out to vote, because I said, are you going to vote today? We'll give you a ride to the polls. And they said, well, I already got a flyer. And I'm like, well, holding a flyer does nothing for me, right? Holding a flyer is going to do nothing to have change. They're like, I've got 4 flyers in my dorm room. And I'm like, well, thanks for collecting our paperwork, but we need you to get to the polls. And they're like, oh, yeah, sure, I'll go. And, of course, they don't. And I'm not surprised, unfortunately.
Yeah, I feel very much the same way. It was pretty discouraging, to be honest. But there's
to some extent, but at the same time, I do want to say, like, I think it was a really great strategy of James, just for outreach purposes. I mean, everybody on the campus knew who he was. They knew what it was that he was about. He really did a great job of getting the word out to those kids. And I mean, I'm not a guy who thinks electoral politics are going to change these things. I think James did more good by reaching out to those kids than he could have by gaining political power.
Hey, I appreciate the call and the thoughts tonight, Chris. And Chris Cantwell of Some Garbage Podcast. We can learn about you at ChristopherCantwell.com.
Thanks, bud.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Chris. And we will get into more of that story about petitioning or campaigning down at Keene State College today. It was exciting, and I think there was a lot to be learned from the event, even though James didn't win. Plus, we'll get to the story about Reddit declaring itself a new form of government. Yeah, I think that sounds about right. This is Peace News Now. You can share your thoughts by Skyping in Peace News Now.
NASA's recent discovery of water on Mercury has led to speculation among scientists that the planet could potentially sustain an intergalactic space prison housing the universe's worst criminals. Scientists believe that organic compounds found on the planet's surface could be useful for creating an off-world space Australia, where strength is the only law. However, they caution it is too early to say whether or not fights among the space jail's prisoners would be broadcast here on Earth for the entertainment of wealthy gamblers. But NASA's lead researchers do say that Mercury's ability to support human life raises important questions about who the prison guards would be.
Perhaps the guards themselves would be space mercenaries, or maybe we'd just use robots.
Robots would have guns for hands.
Well, obviously.
Critics inside NASA caution against funneling too many resources into the Mercury project, when it would be so much cooler to build a prison on the moon ruled by clones of the prisoners themselves. Researchers encourage the public to read their findings, which have been released in the form of a graphic novel titled The Mercury Cipher.
This is the Onion News Network. I love My Magic Mud. I drink a lot of coffee. I had stains on my teeth. Then I found My Magic Mud, and I was told it would remove stains. So I paid attention when I brushed the first time. My Magic Mud is black tooth powder, and the difference it made in my teeth in one application was noticeable. With 4, my teeth were as white as you normal folks out there. Please go to mymagicmud.com and buy a jar. There's 150 applications for $25. You can use Bitcoin, mymagicmud.com.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com. DVD, books, music, instruments, periodicals, computers, software, electronics, photo, cell phones, office products, home and garden, bed and bath, furniture, kitchen, pet supplies, automotive, hardware, apparel, shoes, jewelry, grocery, healthcare, sports and outdoors, toys, games, used, and more. It's a department store at your fingertips. Shop.lrn.fm. Get all your shopping done, get a great deal, and a portion of your purchase goes to benefit the Liberty Radio Network when you shop at Amazon via shop.lrn.fm.
Uncovering the secrets and exposing the lies. That's what the readers of freedomsphoenix.com get every day. freedomsphoenix.com, constantly providing the information, the real news about government policies, and the real relationship we all have with the coercive government, the real condition of the economy, innovations in technology, breakthroughs in energy, health, and computer science. Learn the truth well before it's admitted to in the lamestream media. The corporate media, nothing more than distributors of government propaganda, but now there's an alternative. freedomsphoenix.com. Constant news updates on the issues that affect your life in the most important ways. With liberty and property under constant attack, freedomsphoenix.com provides the understanding behind the propaganda, and it encourages the participation of its readers. Go to freedomsphoenix.com. That's freedoms with an S, phoenix.com. freedomsphoenix.com. The revolution between the ears has already happened.
What's up next? Visit the Liberty Radio Network program guide to find out at shows.lrn.fm. That's shows.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News. Millennials, what do they care for politics? Well, I found out today. I went to Keene State College with a few activists in Keene. We were handing out flyers for the James Cleveland campaign. He was running for state rep in Ward 1, which is the college area. And he was running on a campaign of legalizing weed, lowering the drinking age to 18, and allowing bars to have the choice to stay open later than 1 a.m. Currently, they're restricted. You would think this would be a very successful campaign run at a college of 2,000 or more students, all living in the same political district. It's a typically low voter turnout district, so it would only take a handful of students to go down to the polls and pull a lever, increase the freedom in their lives. Very little effort for pretty good payoff to be able to smoke cannabis, all of these things that people want, these freedoms, but they're not really willing to do anything to achieve that. So that was proven today. James did everything that I can imagine he could have done, organized rides for students to be able to take trips right from their campus to the polls and back within about 30 minutes so that they could go vote. He also organized a party so that they could celebrate win or lose afterwards at a local bar. He handed out flyers on a regular basis at the college campus, spoke with probably hundreds or thousands of students throughout the weeks of campaigning. I was among one of those who campaigned pretty regularly. He did everything that I imagine a person could do, and still, the final count, as I saw, was 30 votes. 30 votes in a district that presumably has thousands of people living there. Just a terribly apathetic turnout, especially after spending 8 hours or so. I was there, I guess, from 8 a.m. in the morning today until 7 p.m. when polls finally closed. So that's a good chunk of time. What's that, 11 hours? That was tough. I did take a break, drank some coffee, had a bite to eat, but for the most part it was just standing and talking to as many people as possible. A lot of them really, I don't know, just lying about, yeah, I'm going, I just voted, or whatever. It couldn't have been as many people as I talked to. So it's disappointing whenever I encounter the general public, and people just don't care about freedom. It's one of the reasons that I work for personal freedom, is because if I can increase the freedom in my own life, then at least I win. I'm not saying screw everyone else, but I'm just saying they don't seem to care very much for freedom. So why should I care about increasing their freedom? I should focus on the freedom in my own life, increase that, and that will inspire others who already do care about freedom, and it will provide a pathway for them if they're looking for ways to increase the freedom in their lives. So, voting. As much as I would like to believe that James would be able to impact the political process by becoming one of 400 or so state reps in New Hampshire, it's unlikely that even as a person with some political power, the bills proposing legalizing cannabis or lowering the drinking age, it's pretty unlikely that they would pass. So it was another surprising thing was to find out how many students supported keeping punishments for those who drink alcohol when they're 19 or 20 years old. A lot of people supported the idea that these students be arrested for the crime of imbibing alcohol, treating their own bodies like they own them, and then making a conscious choice of what to imbibe. That should not be allowed, according to many of the college students with which I spoke. Of course, although these were generally very positive campaign positions, legalizing cannabis. A lot of people say, yeah, it's about time. New Hampshire's surrounded by states where it's legal or decriminalized, but New Hampshire lags behind. Well, no thanks to the voter apathy that we exhibited today, or that we witnessed. So I'm a little bit discouraged. I'm going to be totally honest and say that I worked hard. I feel like I should get some payoff for that, but then no, very little. But at least it was fun. I had fun dealing with friends, talking about these issues with perfect strangers, and something said for that, as well as failures, right? Like all successes came after a long string of failures, or for the most part, and those who were successful just kept failing until they were successful. So what do millennials think? Reason Roop did a poll and found some interesting results. We've got a clip that I want to share just a bit from, but as a preview. This is from Reason.com. Millennials, who are they? What do they believe? Why do we care? Armed with data from a recent Reason Roop poll on the same subject, Reason TV explored these questions on the campus of the University of California, Irvine, by asking students in the 18 to 29 age group to talk about their political philosophies, their attitudes towards Democrats and Republicans, their reactions to the word socialism, and their perspectives on entrepreneurship. Very interesting results indeed. Take a listen.
When you hear the word socialism, what do you think of that? Is that a positive or negative in your mind?
Right now, I think of it as more of a positive.
Millennials, who are they? What do they believe? Why do we care? We visited a college campus to talk with some of these young, mysterious creatures who may hold the keys to the country's political future, and we asked for some help from Reason Foundation polling director Emily Eakins, who happens to be a millennial herself. Go ahead and mock Generation Selfie all you want, but Eakins says politicians and activists from all sides of the spectrum dismiss the millennials at their own peril.
There are three major reasons why we should care about the millennial generation. One, they're one of the largest generations we've seen in American history. Two, they're very diverse and we have a lot of new Americans in this generation. The third reason is that millennials came of a politically impressionable age during the post-9/11 era with ballooning government spending, two unpopular wars, and then the Great Recession. These are things that will forever impact their political judgments and their voting behavior, even as they get older. And as a result, we want to understand what they think because that helps us understand how our politics will change in the future when they start to vote more.
How do you describe yourself politically? Liberal, conservative, something else?
No, I'm more liberal.
I think liberal. I was usually leaning more liberal, but I guess it depends on the topic.
I've grown up in a very conservative household, so but I've been open to a lot of liberal views.
What we're finding is that young Americans today are increasingly more comfortable using the word liberal than older Americans. In fact, they're twice as likely to self-identify as liberal and about half as likely to identify as conservative.
I don't really have a political affiliation, but I guess if you were to define it, it'd be a moderate between liberal and conservative.
Money-wise, I'm kind of a moderate, but social issues-wise, I'm pretty liberal.
A lot of people have prematurely concluded that young people are liberals. And that's actually not true. They're not liberals, they're social liberals. 62% self-identified as socially liberal, but only 49% said that they were economically liberal. So that average millennial you might talk to on the street is probably going to be a social liberal and pretty moderate on the economic issues.
Do you prefer Democrats or Republicans, or neither?
I don't like the two-party system.
There's things I agree from one party that I don't agree with the other, and vice versa, so I just have to really kind of figure out which one I'm more leaning towards.
Right.
That is one encouraging development, that students and young people are saying, I don't really like one party or the other. I don't really trust either the Republicans or the Democrats. And that they identify as fiscally conservative and socially liberal. Does that remind you of anything? Perhaps the Libertarian Party? Interesting to consider that young people seem to be leaning more libertarian than anything. Share your thoughts. 443-424-8347. Peace News Now.
Did you know that Free Aid is a mutual aid, educational, and networking organization? At Free Aid, we support volunteers who provide first aid. We do outreach to the public about health and safety, and we bring together medically skilled freedom lovers. Free Aid is made possible by your generous support. Donors can receive great gifts like first aid kits, t-shirts, silver dime cards, and hoodies. The Free Aid Silver Dime Card Project is sponsored in part by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage, Freedom's Phoenix, and Don't Tread on Meme. Visit fr33aid.com.
Since time began, tyrants have taken aim at personal liberties. Now there's a movie that aims back.
The government has no more right to tell us what to put in our bodies than they have to take our guns or tell us what books we can read.
6 drug police were eaten by bears while raiding a marijuana farm.
On your knees, you dirty hippie! Jesus. On your knees! What's the problem, officer?
Today, many cops who enforce pot laws do so only because it provides them with cushy jobs, good benefits, and a chance to push people around.
I was an undercover narcotics officer. The drug war is nothing but a farce.
The Second Amendment says you gotta keep you and your gang intact.
Guns and Weed, The Road to Freedom. A film by Michael W. D. and Nina Vidali.
DVD available now at gunsandweed.com or on Amazon. That's gunsandweed.com. Makes the perfect gift. Remember, that's gunsandweed.com.
Did you know that you can listen to LRN.FM 24/7 via our free-to-air satellite channel? From Mexico to Canada, our signal covers nearly all of North America. All you need is a view of the southern sky, an affordable receiver, and a dish as small as 30 inches. There are no monthly fees. Learn more at sat.lrn.fm. Plus, if you're a broadcaster or want to be one, this is a good delivery method for our content. See our coverage map and get details at sat.lrn.fm. That's sat.lrn.fm.
On LRN.FM, we talk a lot about alternative currencies. Did you know that now you can buy gold, silver, and other precious metals with bitcoins? LRN.FM has partnered with Amagi Metals to bring you great prices on beautiful .999 fine silver, as well as gold.
Hello.
And other metals. Check out
Hey,
their selection.
I think did you change anything on your Linux computer?
No, why do you ask?
Well, before it wouldn't let me dial into you. It would just say no answer.
Here's a chance to do a little
Really? You didn't dial into me this time. I dialed into you.
No, like the last couple shows that I called in on, it wouldn't let me connect to this line.
Weird.
You have to call me.
I have it set as automatically accept calls. So, because I don't want it ringing, if I can avoid it, I'll just let the call come through and then mute it.
Well, that's really odd if you hadn't changed anything in the setup since the last time I called.
I don't know. I'm always doing different things. We come back in a minute. What do you want to talk about?
I moved to
the voting, the millennial voting thing.
Okay.
And thought that
Sounds
I could
good.
get support myself.
Did you see my video today when I was threatened with arrest for video recording? Or, yeah.
And once I got here, I knew there was no
what were you recording?
I was live streaming.
So I moved to the Shire to join people.
I wasn't live streaming until campus security came over, but they told me that I wasn't allowed to campaign on campus.
It was for the adventure.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear infringement of free speech. I mean, if there's any place where political speech should exist, it's on campus colleges.
And learn the reasons why. If you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, add yourself to the Shire map at ShireSociety.com.
I say campus colleges, I mean college campuses. We're coming back.
If you enjoy LRN.FM, please contribute to your favorite shows via their websites and become an amplifier at amp.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Peace News. Call in, share your stories of peaceful resistance or whatever's on your mind in that realm. We've got Nathan from Texas. He's Skyping in on our Peace News Now line. Talking about campaigning, apathetic millennials, and their politics. What's on your mind, Nathan?
Well, first of all, I wanted to go back to the thing you were talking about during the break, which is free speech on campuses. I actually had the impression that free speech was limited on a lot of campuses, like the free speech zone and such. Have you actually seen people do political activity or speech on this campus in the past?
Yeah, only Ian Freeman, who was threatened with arrest for doing so. And I've been bounced from the campus for holding signs at a political rally when John Huntsman came to town as campaigning for election as president, I believe he was running for in 2012. And I was kicked off of Keene State College campus by the Keene police simply for holding a sign. And so, no. Politics and free speech is not allowed at this campus, even though it's a state-funded school paid for by taxpayer dollars. This is
okay.
It's all.
I was going to suggest maybe you sue in that case.
No. In fact, there were other people campaigning there today, Nathan, and they were using the free speech zone area on the lawn outside of the student center. Not a bad area.
There is a free speech zone.
Oh yeah, it is absolutely restricted, and I was ignoring that because I believe I have a human right to speak with other consenting adults. You know, I asked them if they would like to talk. They voluntarily engaged in conversation with me. There was no force or coercion used, and I asked them to go vote for James Cleveland. Told them what the campaign issues were, and I was told by campus security that that was not allowed. That it was okay for me to tell the students that it is voting day, and I was allowed to tell them where they can vote, but I was not allowed to tell them about a particular politician, James Cleveland, and I was not allowed to tell them that there are free rides available down the street on Main Street. That was not allowed. The security made a decision about what speech I was allowed to say and what speech I was not allowed to say, and they did threaten to call the Keene police on me. In fact, they got over the two-way and did just that. But then I was like, whoa, I'll comply. I'll do whatever you want. Don't arrest me. And that's all on video. You can find it on my Bamboozer page, which is bamboozer.com/user/TheDerekJ. It'll also be posted to freekeene.com within 24 hours.
Okay, because I actually thought it was supposed to be DerekJ.me for everything now. But,
yeah. I'll post it to DerekJ.me. I'll post it to DerekJ.me. I haven't done that yet. I should have done it.
It's interesting because that brings up an important point, which is that when you start making these kinds of distinctions, there's this question of who decides. You know, who enforces that distinction.
Oh, they do. And they make it up as they go along, and if I don't like it, I can go and be arrested. That's what they said. And I was clear about this when I was in the security office. They brought me up to the 3rd floor of the security office in the Student Center at Keene State College under duress. I was told I have to come with them or else I'll be arrested. So I did that under duress. And then while in the office, I was then berated by a throng of bureaucrats or admin. And, they were telling me, a
throng?
Yes, not a thong, a throng. Isn't that a group of them? I'm gonna look that up.
Well, just how many bureaucrats do they need to stare you down? And this is what I'm.
Yeah, a large, densely packed crowd of people or animals. You decide which they are. And it was horrible. It was horrifying. I was very uncomfortable. You can see in the video, unfortunately, that I'm very shaky because my adrenaline's pumping. I was just threatened with arrest. It could still happen at any second. Fortunately, I was with another activist. It's always good to do activism in groups. Don't do it alone. And that was probably the deciding factor between me being arrested or not, because there was a big man, Matt Roach. He's a activist here in Keene, who's big. He's muscly, tall, and it's, like it or not, the fact is it's less likely that there will be an arrest when you're bigger than the cops. And that's
so
what it was.
You think it wasn't just that he was another activist filming you, it was a big guy filming you.
Yes, and that was evidenced in Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree, where you see Jason Rapture is filming for about 5 minutes up in the Keene lobby of the courthouse, and he's told not to do that, not to do that, not to do that. He has conversations. Then I go up, and I'm much smaller than Jason Rapture, and I film for 6 seconds, and I'm under arrest. So, if that doesn't make it obvious to people that it's not about applying the law, it's about I'm a bully and I'm measuring up the situation saying, can I attack this person and make them my victim? If I can, I will. And that's the mind of the bureaucrat. That's the mind of the authoritarian. They look at it as the playground that they grew up on, they're bullies, and it's as simple as that. I mean, that's how they act, and that's real life. So as much as we'd like to imagine that these government people, they follow a hard and fast set of rules that restrict their actions to that which is moral or legal even, that's not the case. They do whatever they want and justify it later post facto.
Wow. So yeah, that's interesting. I don't know if there'll be any in the future, if there'll be some incident where someone gets arrested for doing that. That would be interesting.
Well, what would be better, Nathan, is if a student were doing this. So there are some activists who are students at Keene State College. Now, they have much more of a right, arguably, than I do to be there on campus talking about politics. They're paying tuition. I'm only paying taxes, theoretically. And so if it were a student, organizations like FIRE, which I'm forgetting what their acronym stands for at the moment, but they're a free speech organization for students to get rid of those free speech zones on campus. So if it were a student bringing this against the administration, it would be a different story. They would probably
it's basically
have a lawsuit.
Rosa Parks scenario.
Well, they would be having a lawsuit on their hands in that case, but in this case, I'm just some guy who was, bothersome on campus talking about this crazy, freaking political activist who wants to legalize pot. We just can't have that kind of freedom in this world.
Apparently not.
Yeah, so that's what happened. You can check out the video. It will be posted to derekj.me if you haven't already seen it. There are 3 threats. So first, this was also interesting. I forgot to note that the campus safety director came out to speak with me and James Cleveland, who was also on campus, handed us a piece of paper, or attempted to. I said, I'm not really interested in your piece of paper. Ironically, she was telling me that I was soliciting, but here she is coming up to me, a perfect stranger, and handing me a piece of paper.
Ironic.
Yeah,
well,
is that soliciting?
Political activity is the same as soliciting.
I don't know. I don't think it is. I think soliciting is when you're selling something, and
that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think that would be not legitimate. I'm not selling anything. So yeah, she came over to me. I tried to explain that I wasn't allowed to do what I was doing, and I was saying, what's the problem? Like, who's the victim? What's the harm here? What's really the issue? And as soon as I pulled out my phone and started live streaming, screaming. She ran away. Like, ran away. It was not a stride. It was like, I'm bolting. I'm getting the hell out of here.
These are your valiant, courageous public officials, people.
Well, she's the director of campus safety, and she's running from a video camera? I mean, if there were a serious situation, what would she do? Like, I don't even want to think about it. But this woman, whose name is Amanda, I forget her last name, she ran from me 3 times. She came up to me once, wanted to talk with me. I started video recording. She ran. She came up to me again with a security guard the second time, like brought in the big guns with the golf cart. And I broke out my video camera and started recording her, and away she goes. And then number 3 was when the security guard came over to me and said, "Oh, hey, you're not going to pay attention to us? You're not going to heed our warning? Well, I'm going to have you arrested." He got on his 2-way and said, "We got a code 37 here. Code 37. And that sounded bad to me, so I was like, whoa, hold up. So I followed him under duress, and that's the end of the story. They did eventually let me go. I kept campaigning out by Main Street because they have no jurisdiction on a public sidewalk on Main Street. So that's where I stayed, even though 4 other activists, Ian Freeman, Chris Cantwell, James Cleveland, I think Jay Freeville, and a few others, they all continued to do activism right on campus without any bother from the campus security. So I don't know if
were you all standing together?
No, everyone was dispersed for the most part, but
well,
it was for hours.
I guess I'm wondering, did they just pick on you because of your magnetism? Like they were drawn to pick on you, or what's going on there?
That is a big question mark in my head, Nathan. I don't know. I hesitate. I don't want to be the kind of guy who says they're just picking on me. But it really seems like, I don't know if I've got some like magnetism, as you say, for the authorities to just want to come and pick on me.
You've got a bully attractive field around you.
Somehow that's the case, and it was never that way in school, but in real life, in the adult world, that's how it is. I appreciate your call, Nathan. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. This is Peace News Now.
Hi, I'm Derek J. I don't want a politician to represent me.
Yes. Anything else that you wanted to share while we're on our long break?
Oh, is this the long break?
Yes.
Yeah, we actually didn't get to the voting issue, which I wanted to ask about. But
okay. Well,
I don't know if that's enough for...
Yeah, we could talk about that. I'm going to come back to the story of what millennials think about politics when we come back.
Okay.
So if you want to disconnect and then just reconnect with me when we get started again in 7 minutes, that would be great.
Okay.
All right, talk to you then.
Okay.
Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs. I would shop there. The American Empire. The Empire does not require my consent.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. That's victimlesscrimespree.com.
Now that you've found the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM, you may want to help expose others to our great programs. To assist you in doing so, you'll find resources at promote.lrn.fm, including details on how to get a free bumper sticker, quarter-page flyers you can print out and distribute, banners for your website, as well as files that will allow you to make your own custom banners and graphics. Visit promote.lrn.fm and help bring new listeners to the Liberty Radio Network. That's promote.lrn.fm.
If there was a place that liberty-minded people had been elected to political positions and were rolling back government, would you move there? If freedom lovers had secured a 20% voting bloc and can veto most bad bills, would you move? Well, the time has come to sign the pledge at freestateproject.org. These things have happened in New Hampshire, and you can join us and help. freestateproject.org. Sign up now at freestateproject.org.
More Peace News Now is coming up next, live after the news, here on the Liberty Radio Network, LRN.FM.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Berry, host of FPP Radio News for Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. Silver is trading at $19.03 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,256 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $471. Antiwar.com reports Iraq's parliament managed to beat the September 10th deadline for approving a new cabinet, formalizing Haider Abadi's position as Iraq's new prime minister, replacing Nouri al-Maliki, who will now be one of the vice presidents. The cabinet is only a partial one, with the positions of defense minister and interior minister as yet undecided, and expected to be resolved by next week, with Abadi saying he'd take either the consensus parliament choices or appoint his own. There were no previous interior or defense ministers, as Maliki held both positions for years. As a unity government, Abadi appears to have done a good job spreading out the cabinet positions among the various parties. In addition to getting the deputy prime minister and finance minister spots, Kurdish participation is conditional on the resolution of outstanding disputes over oil revenue sharing, as well as territorial ownership of Kirkuk and other areas surrounding the original KRG territory, which Kurdish Peshmerga fighters have taken in recent months. The unfilled ministries remain hugely important and are likely to be hotly debated among the various factions in the weeks to come, though expect Abadi to keep the two spots, particularly the defense ministry spot, within the Shiite ruling bloc. FPP Radio News is brought to you by Roberts & Roberts Brokerage. For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They now take Bitcoin for purchasing precious metals so you can turn your profits into a long-term investment. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing. 800-874-9760. Reuters reports Oklahoma plans to have new execution protocols written within the next 2 weeks to correct for the shortcomings exposed in a report last week about the troubled execution of a convicted murderer, according to officials. The prison department aims to have all the recommendations made in the report in place and ready for the next Oklahoma execution, scheduled for November, according to Department of Corrections Director Robert Patton. The report on the April execution said a doctor and a paramedic failed nearly a dozen times to place an IV during the execution of Clayton Lockett and were unprepared for how to proceed once the line they secured to deliver the lethal injection began to leak drugs. Department of Public Safety investigators made 11 recommendations to improve the process, including having additional lethal injection drugs on hand, additional training for medical personnel in the death chamber, and leaving the IV area of the body exposed so that it can be monitored. Among the changes underway are a fresh coat of paint for the death chamber, new seating for witnesses, and expanded medical equipment that includes a vein finder and EKG machine. ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.
Hi there, how's it going?
Hey, just fine. Yourself?
I'm excellent. I was about to go back to one of our first callers. What is it that you wanted to chat about?
Well, I had a similar experience while campaigning once where I guess one of these rent-a-cop guys in these neighborhoods told one of the block walkers that they couldn't go up to a door and leave a political pamphlet because it was soliciting. And I had to drive down and meet the security guard and chew him out, and eventually backed off. And, you know, I had a similar thing where someone who was with me took out the camera, and it was night and day the way he reacted.
Wow, I would love to hear that story. So if you could just hold tight for another 90 seconds, we will put you on the air. All right, great, thanks.
Punishable by up to 14 years in prison under Gambian law that was amended in 2005 to apply to women in addition to men. The bill now awaits approval by the Gambian president, an autocratic ruler who in 2008 instructed gay men and lesbians to leave the country or risk having their heads cut off. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.
Hours spent volunteering at a local homeless shelter truly make her death at the hands of a drunk driver earlier this week all the harder to take for this school and this community.
I never knew Amanda, but everywhere I went there were touching reminders
of the caring friend she would have been to me had I known her. Losing Amanda was one of the hardest things I've ever had to deal with, but I knew I had to be strong for this community. I couldn't let them go through the funeral without my support.
She's so much better than all of us. She was so much good. She cared about so many people. She loved you so much. What's your name? She loved you, Russell.
And we have O'Brady Shaw with us right now.
Thanks, Brooke.
Not quite how I would have reported the story. Seems a bit unprofessional to let yourself so emotional.
Well, when people are feeling pain, I feel it too. Don't you ever get emotionally invested in a story?
No, I don't. You know, I had my tear ducts cauterized years ago, and I like to keep my emotions stored in a special place in my mind where they only come out for my night terrors.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back to the second hour of Peace News Now. We're live. It's Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. And hey, before I forget, it's the 3rd year anniversary of Derek J's Live Free or Dance Party. Yes, I was cruising to the sounds of justice when, woo, the police arrived at the gazebo at Keene Central Square to bust my dance party and arrest me, handcuff me, walk me to a cruiser, and then pepper spray me in the eyes while I'm still handcuffed, then pushed me into a cop car and threw me in a jail cell for the rest of the night. Oh, so much fun. But that's 3 years ago. And here we are, still in Keene, still doing activism, still being threatened with arrests on a semi-regular basis. But I'm not the only one. We've got another caller who joins us on the Skype line. You can also call in, share your thoughts, dial 443-424-8347. That spells out Hi-Fi Civ Dis, as in civil disobedience. You can also Skype in, as this caller is, by sending a contact request to Peace News Now. Now, caller, you are on the air. You have a story about a similar situation involving campus security and political speech. What was your story?
It was more of in line with I was working a state House rep race in Texas, and I was in charge of the ground game. And what that is block walkers, people going out, knocking out doors, trying to drive out the base for whatever party to get them to the polls. What happened was there were some block walkers that were out, and they give me a call, and they said, well, we just got done talking to this security guard, and apparently the guy had blocked them in a cul-de-sac and called in backup, and was basically like, you don't come back here, you're soliciting, which is completely illegal in Texas because it specifically says in our state constitution that political speech, like pamphlets, stuff like that, is not soliciting. Because you aren't selling anything, you're trying to bring the voter awareness about different candidates and their stances on issues. So I drive out, I find the security guard, I circled the neighborhood for about 10 minutes looking for the guy, and I had someone else with me, get out of the car, you know, speed up behind him, start flashing the lights, and, you know, finally stops, get out, and he gets out, and I was like, were you the guy just kind of threatened and intimidated these block walkers? Because they didn't want to go back to the neighborhood. They were like, I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to get arrested, all this type of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I was. You can't be doing that here. And then my friend gets out of the car, and, you know, he pulls out his cell phone, starts recording. It was like a light switch, night and day. Security guard turned around, was like, well, you know, immediately changed his tone. And then I started getting on him. I was like, well, you can't be telling them that. You're breaking the law. You're inhibiting their ability to talk to potential voters and inform, you know, their neighbors and the public about a candidate. And just went at him.
Wow.
But it escalated from there. He got a supervisor involved, and we got the county party legal department involved. And eventually they backed down, but it's becoming more prevalent in these neighborhoods that have HOAs, homeowners associations. They'll pay security guards, and they're making minimum wage or a little bit more, and they go out and they try to intimidate these people, not knowing the laws, and that, you know, it's not soliciting or anything like that. But it's every year since then, you know, more of the incidences have occurred. Even at the apartment complex that I'm at, I tried to walk my precinct, and they said, oh, you can't walk in this precinct, or you can't walk in the apartment complex. And I was like, no, I can, because these are my neighbors. I can inform them about, candidates I support, or issues stances I have on issues, etc. And now to get the county party legal department involved again, I don't know what it is with these HOAs and these apartment complexes. You give somebody a little power, and they'll try to stretch it as much as they can.
Well, and as we've seen, it's not just apartment complexes or homeowners associations, it's college campuses, or basically anywhere where people are wearing a badge and can exercise authority over other human beings, most of whom are usually perfectly some bully coming up to you and saying, hey, I'm blocking you in, preventing you from physically leaving the space that you're at, and then accusing you of having committed a crime of immorality, or knocking on people's doors and bothering them, soliciting, trying to sell them information, when it's clearly political speech. So what do you make of all this? Are the security guards just ignorant of the law, or is there a conspiracy here where they're trying to crush voter outreach?
I've talked to candidates and other people, and some people are like, well, they're always like, oh, that's a Democratic neighborhood. Of course you're going to be like that. And it could be. If it was a Republican, or Democrat, they would treat you differently just depending on how you support what candidate you're out there walking for. Most of the time, I think it's just ignorance, and their boss is telling them, you see somebody walking in the neighborhood, or you get a nosy neighbor that calls in and says, there's some people walking around, and you have even if they have a campaign shirt on and it says vote for X candidate, they'll still call in and say, well, they can't be soliciting out here. So it's either a neighbor's calling in, not knowing the law, or it's them just letting upon these people walking around, and they're told, hey, no soliciting, and they don't see a difference. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, that's how it is. I wish it would at least have a more expedited conclusion, where because these people, they'll do it like right before election day, so it's a big trying to get voter turnout, all that stuff, and then you have one of these incidences. Well, it's not going to get resolved for 2 or 3 days, depending on who has to get involved and all that stuff. It could even be longer. It could be a month or 2, and that can sway an election.
Sure
and I just think it's horrible that you can't immediately call somebody and get this resolved. And if you're at a voting location, at least in my state, there's a hotline you can call. If you don't think things are running right, they have, quote, state field agents that go out and inspect the sites, which I don't know. I've never had any interaction with any of them, so I don't know how good they are, fair. Mm-hmm. But it's just, I think it's ridiculous that these people aren't even, they're doing this as a part-time job, maybe, in some instances, and they're driving around, they're squelching people's rights to just talk to their neighbor, talk to their fellow, human being about politics, about ideas.
How did these people get authority over you? I mean, you're walking around God's free earth, talking to other human beings, consenting adults about philosophical ideas, political ideas, and somehow that's a crime? How does that make any sense? Talk more about the role of video recording in your incident and how the security guard responded. Have you downloaded a live streaming app to your phone since this incident? Have you live streamed anything since? Have you implemented a strategy of recording authoritarians? What's the role of video recording in your life now?
Absolutely. Now I have an app that can record phone calls. So if I'm talking to somebody, because it's a one-party consent state in Texas, so I don't have to let them know I'm recording. I can just call them up and be, hey, we're talking, but stories change over the phone, and when you talk to somebody in person, I also have it where on my phone it can live stream, and then I'm looking at getting the camera for my vehicle, just something to put in the car, maybe like replace my rearview mirror with a camera / rearview mirror, and that way I can feel protected, because you go online, you see these incidences where these police reports are completely, BS, doesn't describe the situation at all. And you look at the video, and it's night and day. So unfortunately now you do have to, have something to protect yourself. And, many people believe seeing is believing, so it makes sense to me to protect myself and protect, people I'm working with. If I'm with the campaign, I tell people always bring their phones and record if any incident happens.
Terrific advice. I appreciate your call on Peace News Now tonight. You can share your thoughts. Dial in 443-424-8347 or Skype us like the last caller did. Peace News Now. We'll get back to what millennials think about politics, and I think Nathan has some thoughts that he'd like to share on that. This is Peace News Now.
This Your Family Today tip is brought to you by Ovaltine. Give your kids the nutrition they need to be their best. Visit us at ovaltineusa.com. Telling your child about healthy food choices is important, but showing her what to eat goes a lot further. Have her help create the grocery list, then bring her to the store with you. Picking out healthy foods together helps kids get in the habit of thinking about what they're eating every day. For more tips like these, visit us at parenthood.com/yourfamilytoday.
Are you about to meet the media? If you're about to be interviewed, do their homework for them. Know this about the person who will interview you. He or she is busy, so expect minimal, if any, preparation. He or she doesn't know as much about your topic as you do. He or she isn't as concerned as you are about getting your message out, so you need to take responsibility. Provide a biography and fact sheet, photographs, or other materials that tell your story. Reporters won't be put off if you supply frequently asked questions. Remember, Public Speaking 101, at the end of the speech, what's the one thing you want them to remember? You can download the document I supply to reporters who interview me and squirm through a video that demonstrates how not to conduct your media interview at www.survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
Instead of just listening, you can also watch. See the Liberty Radio Network's key New Hampshire-based live shows via our studio cam at cam.lrn.fm. Plus, you'll still be able to listen to the Liberty Radio Network via the cam feed in high quality 24/7, even when there's no live show being produced in our Keene studio. But wait, there's more. Our chat room is built into the cam page so you can interact with other listeners online. Listen, watch, and chat, all free at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Are you a political activist who does things that the government might not like? Then this free ebook may save your life. Rats is your guide to protecting yourself against snitches, informers, informants, agents provocateur, narcs, finks, and similar vermin. Rats was written by OG libertarian Claire Wolfe. Rats is a short book, easy to read, and available free in many formats. Download Rats free at rats-nosnitch.com. That's rats-nosnitch.com.
The three most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. You likely buy all kinds of things online. Amazon is the largest online retailer.
So I always thought Texas was a one-party consent state, but it's nice to hear someone else confirm that.
You could just look that up.
I did actually look it up on Wikipedia, and Wikipedia was, how do you say it? They listed, they had a list of two-party consent states, and then said that all other states are one-party, and that didn't satisfy me.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
You could probably find another site that says that.
Yeah. I know that New Jersey is a single-party consent state, and when I was away from Keene, I took full advantage of that while I was calling up local police departments, asking them questions on video, and audio recording that, because it was nice. It was nice to have that freedom again.
I missed that call by Michelle Sevener. I wasn't sure what she was saying. She had some kind of traffic ticket in New Jersey, and she was traveling there to represent herself.
Yeah, ridiculous. We come back in 20 seconds, but yeah, essentially she had a speeding ticket. She went down to Jersey to fight it, and then when she showed up, they didn't know what to do because she wasn't pleading guilty. They're not used to that. We're coming back.
You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
Peace News returns. We've got more from your calls. 443-424-8347. Nathan in Texas returns to the show. He's got more to share about politics, millennials, and Michelle 7. What's on your mind, Nathan?
Well, I remember calling into Free Talk Live before and asking if I think if Ian had ever expected to win any election in Florida, because I remember he was doing campaign work, or what did the other caller say? Walking?
Yeah, he called it block walking, which I had never heard before, but I get the picture.
Yeah, so the reason I asked that question is I think there's a certain utility to having experience, because if you've tried the political system and you found that it doesn't work, then that lets you be more certain of going out.
You just cut off for a second, so that helps you be more certain of what?
Oh, I'm sorry?
So that helps you be more certain of what if you've had some experience in politics?
If you've had experience with politics and it hasn't worked, then that lets you be more certain of your own position, right? Because you can say, well, I've tried politics, I tried what you're saying, and that didn't work.
Well, duh, we know that. I mean, and yeah, this was proof
I bring
of
it up.
concept.
I bring it up because I've never actually been into politics. Like I sort of, looked at Ron Paul and looked at him, the success and the non-success that he's had, and I go, okay, well, voting's not very effective. If Ron Paul, he can't even get any legislation passed. He can't have any impact. All he can do is educate people. He can't actually slow down any laws or anything like that.
Well, I'm glad you brought it. It's a problem that I think economics explains pretty well. It's, to my mind, and I'm no expert in this, but there's a cost-benefit analysis that happens in the minds of voters versus politicians. So the politicians have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of dollars in bribes to gain from their seats of power. But the power itself is worth sometimes, you can't put a price tag on the value, and they will spend up to and including that amount on bribing the right voters, on promising things that they'll never do. But then the voters, they have very little benefit from going out to vote one way or another. I mean, it's unlikely, statistically almost impossible, that your vote will be the deciding vote between one politician or another. So the cost-benefit analysis flows to the politician to spend more energy and time bribing people than for a voter to go out and actually pull a lever for an issue that they care about. Because if you care about someone like Ron Paul and you want to legalize drugs and stop peaceful people from being thrown in cages, well, you've got what, $1 or $1 billion working against you to keep people going into cages. So it's just a cost-benefit analysis thing. That's why politics doesn't work. Is because of money. You can't get rid of it. It's going to be involved. Money and power. If you concentrate these into like one mandatory form of organization called government, you're never going to have accountability or honesty.
Right, and I think what you're talking about is there was a book called The Myth of the Rational Voter, I think, that talked about this, and that was the thesis, that these special interests, they can influence the government because they sort of have the money and the influence to do that, but the individual voter doesn't really have a chance.
You got it,
for the reasons you said.
Yeah, that's exactly right, and that's what we saw with the Cleveland campaign. Again, it's weird to me. I'm not a politico. I never came from the political realm before moving to Keene, and this was my first experience with politics. As I shared on Free Talk Live last night, my first time voting was here in Keene, and it was for Ron Paul, and my second vote was for Ian. So that gives you my history of voting. So I got my hopes up for James. I'm thinking, hey, the last person who won in this district only got something like 100 votes. If James can pull out 100 votes, he's got it. And I was talking to students for 11 hours today, so you can bet I talked to more than 100 people who were saying, yeah, I'm going to go vote for James Cleveland. But they didn't. And
well, that was going to be my objection, though, is why would they necessarily expect that this election would be different than the other 99% of elections that happen in the country, right?
Who's they? The students or the activists?
The students, because what you're telling the students from their perspective is, well, you should vote in this election because this one time your vote will count. So, like, I guess I'm asking why from their perspective, should they believe you?
Well, I wasn't saying that. I was pretending to be a politico who cares about all elections and all issues. And, you care about cannabis legalization, don't you? And you vote, so go out and vote. Today's voting day. Do your duty, right? I was pretending to be a statist in a way.
Okay.
Because,
No, but I mean, if they've already run this this cost-benefit analysis, I mean, obviously that's not really
They don't, but they run it in the back of their heads, right?
Yeah. If people kind of implicitly do this, then like why should they believe that this James Cleveland election would be any different than like the election of Maggie Hassan or the election of any other person?
There was one guy who was honest enough to say that. He was like, you know what? I support cannabis legalization, but one guy going to the State House of 400 people and saying, hey, we should legalize pot is not going to pass. I'm sorry, it's just not going to happen. And at least he was honest about his reservations. And he's probably right.
Right. Was this a city ordinance you were trying to pass, or was it?
No, this is statewide. So he was running for state rep here in New Hampshire,
Okay.
And as state rep you can propose laws. You'd say, I want to repeal stuff, or I want to add new stuff. Well, he was proposing to repeal legislation that forbids cannabis or introduce new legislation.
Right. See, I was at first when I heard it, I thought you were talking about like a referendum, like in California, where you can directly propose legislation, and then because in that case you could at least say to the person, I don't know what the turnout is in California for referendum. It may not actually be higher than in the other one.
Well, it was pretty poor here. To see 150 people, I think, is the maximum number who voted in that ward. I mean, that's pretty pathetic. If you're going to even say, I mean, how can, this is another interesting thing to me about politics, how can 120 people who ended up casting the votes in favor of the other politician, the other Democrat, how can 120 people decide for the other 2,000 or so who live in their district who the candidates will be and what the issues will be decided on? You could say that all 2,000 had an opportunity and they just decided to pass on it, but I don't think you can legitimately say that the 2,000 or so want whatever's coming their way. They're not choosing it. They're not opting into a system where someone makes decisions on their behalf. Instead, they're negligent at worst, or
Protestant at best.
I suppose so. Yes, Protestant at best. Well, we'll have to leave it there, Nathan. I always appreciate your calls and thoughts. You too can dial in 443-424-8347 or send a Skype contact request to PeaceNewsNow, and it will be approved, and then I'll put you on the air. It'll be easy from then on out to connect with us, just like Nathan here in Texas. We've got more stories about millennials, apathy, plus we've still got to get to Reddit and its new form of government.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand a concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting yourself, your family, and your assets with quality term life insurance? Consider these possible rates. A man age 45 non-tobacco user could obtain $1 million of coverage for as little as $75 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 10 years. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. A man age 50, non-tobacco user may be able to obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $115 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 20 years. We have great rates for smokers too. Call the Term Lifeline now. 800-872-0403, 800-872-0403, 800-872-0403.
If you want to move to the free state and you're looking for some real estate, well, I know a guy who's really great. It's makers, a lakeside cabin. Any takers, renters, buyers, and sellers too. Mark Gordon is the guy for you. PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Free Press Publications is an independent alternative media and publishing company founded in June 2009 with the mission of ensuring a free press for the freedom movement, and is committed to spreading the message of peace, freedom, love, and liberty. FPP also gives new authors an avenue for publishing freedom-oriented material. FPP brings you daily news and commentary at fpp.cc, as well as weekly news in the FPP Freedom Minute and Peace, Love, Liberty Radio at fppradio.com. The monthly newspaper FPP News at news.fpp.cc, and books at shop.fpp.cc. Find FPP online at fpp.cc. That's fpp.cc, as in Creative Commons.
Did you know you can get news updates about what's happening with the Liberty Radio Network delivered in the way you prefer? You can sign up for our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. Plus, you can stay in the loop by joining our Facebook profile at facebook.lrn.fm or follow us at Twitter at twitter.lrn.fm. It's all free, so sign up now at updates.lrn.fm for news updates delivered to your email box, facebook.lrn.fm to follow our Facebook page, and twitter.lrn.fm to receive our tweets.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
Your amp will directly change more lives by getting Free Talk Live in front of people looking for talk radio online and on the air. Find out about giving to our Google AdWords campaign at amp.freetalklive.com. That's amp.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the best liberty-oriented audio streamed around the clock, on the air, and online. This is the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
You're listening to Peace News. We are live this Tuesday, September 9th, 2014. It's 11:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. I'm broadcasting from Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world. You can learn more at freekeene.com. And we've got a caller on the line. It is James in Arizona. James, go ahead with your thoughts.
Yes, abandoning your post.
Yes, I did.
Grounds for summary execution.
That's right. I did abandon my post. Occasionally, on commercial breaks, I will go and tweeze my eyebrows and such. That's exactly what I was doing. So I hope the video audience at home appreciates the grooming that I do for you. Go ahead. What's on your mind?
Well, that reminds me about, it's fascinating to me that you mentioned that in response to my question about where the Seahawks play, you said you don't pay any attention to the bread and circuses.
Yeah.
It's funny, respectfully, life is not all about politics, but it's funny how you kind of turned one of the world's most popular games into a political theme in your mind. Whereas, I mean, I don't know about you, but ever since I was a little kid and one of my buddies called me up on the telephone and say, hey, what they call me, Wit, do you want to go play football behind the Joneses' house? I'd be like, F yeah, I'm there. Who's coming? How many are we going to get to have on each team?
Huh. Well, it is political because Americans are spending $4 billion subsidizing sports stadiums, which, you know.
No, that's not what I called it about.
All right.
I'm totally against corporate socialism, and I'm adamantly opposed to that's why I call it the City of Phoenix stadium on the other side of the valley where the next Super Bowl is going to be played.
Great.
They call it University Phoenix Stadium, which is a total scam. They stole taxpayer money and then they're putting up their advertisement on the building.
Yes.
No, my point was it was more of a psychological question about you, because when your friends called you up when you were a little kid, you never said "F yeah, I'm there," did you? When they called you up to play football, did you?
No, I remember my first time when my friends were playing football. I got my friend a football for his birthday. It was a 3rd grade birthday party, and I was scared. I didn't know what to get this guy. I was like, what do boys like? Most of my friends were girls, and I was like, a football, that makes sense. So I got this kid a football, and then, to my horror, they wanted to play with it at the birthday party, and I didn't know how to play, so I just took whatever position I could. I mostly ended up watching. So, no, I was not excited about football, but why is that on your mind? Why is that important to peaceful resistance today?
Well, I don't know what the other callers had to do with, well, peaceful resistance, okay, that's a theme I'll try to come by you with at another time. It has something to do with, like, I lived with a dude for 3 years that couldn't catch a football either. Because I always suspected he was, even though I never cared. I'd known him for years before we shared a house together.
Oh, he's gay?
I knew it for a fact when I saw this funny mag in funny wrapping called International Mail. I mean, I already knew it anyway, but it's kind of like, for those people out there that don't already know, it's like Victoria's Secret for men.
Yeah.
It's whatever, dude. God love you. I think it has something to do with that. As much as your political theme that you thought of as in the bread and circuses, I happen to be one of a billion fans of football as well, and I love other sports as well. So the politics aside about stadiums and extortion of money from people like, say, my mom, who doesn't know anything about sports, but her tax money went to pay for a billionaires players club,
right?
That outrages me beyond belief.
That's not right.
I wanted to bust your balls a little bit about that because it cracked me up.
Okay, fair enough. Busted.
Well, because it had more to do with something else, or as much to do with something else as opposed to God love you.
So is that what you called in to talk about football and my inability to play? What?
No, I wanted to poke a little fun at you.
Okay, fair enough. Done. Now what? If you got something to talk about that's substantial.
Well, about the little thing about Ian, by the way, is his running as a status, is that, what did you call it? Is he just pretending?
Yeah, you're talking about Ian Freeman of Free Talk Live. Not everyone knows that. Yeah, he's running for governor here in New Hampshire. And I don't think I said that he was pretending to be a status. I said I was.
Right, I thought it, well, I'm asking you, do you not agree that it's the same thing? You're both kind of like, it's to serve his megalomania as well, his egomaniac that he is, that I have said that he is before.
I don't know, but it doesn't hurt anybody.
Right, but it
might be self-serving. Okay. It might be self-aggrandizing. I doubt it. From the way that Ian acts around home, it seems like he likes to share the spotlight often. It's just that he often does things worth watching. So
I wanted to say I was sorry for your loss today. Well, not really. I mean, to be honest with you.
Oh, great.
I will fight for your right to party, Derek J.
Yeah.
But as a political campaign platform, even a bunch of college kids, as Chris Cantwell calls them, can see that it's juvenile and it's totally juvenile and it contributes nothing to the general welfare of one's community to vote for a guy because he's saying, dude, let's smoke pot and drink beer whenever we want. Let's lower the drinking age to 14. Yeah, raise a beer mug to that, dude.
Some called it pandering. And I could agree with that. It was pandering. James, it should be pointed out, is an accountant and works 40+ hours a week. You see, he's not a partier type guy that you might suspect with his campaign platform. But yeah, some people called it pandering because it was like, hey, could you be more insulting to the college crowd? I mean, it looks like you're really you're dumbing it down for us. And
well, I didn't call pandering, Derek J. I called it juvenile.
Well, others have called it pandering, and I would agree with that characterization. But isn't all electioneering pandering? isn't all election and campaigning promising people stuff that they want in return?
I'm vehemently anti-socialist grift that has worked for the last 100 years for the Democratic Party and to a large extent now the Republican Party. Okay, we're on the same team here as far as libertarianism goes. I'm not an anarchist like you said you are before, but I think we can both hope for one day to have a minicrist, as you call them now.
That would be great.
I guess.
The minimal size of government, like the smallest possible.
Yes, we could agree with that as well. But about these college kids, I think it's very important to draw a very firm distinction between some of the fascinating, I call them the garbage mans. I think it's hypocrisy for him to one time earlier in the day, hey, we can give you a lift to the polls, come on with us, come on, vote. And then when your dude doesn't win, all of a sudden they're apathetic, they're kids, in one respect, I will agree with Chris Cantwell. I think college kids shouldn't have the right to vote. If you ask me, I don't think any teenager on planet Earth should have the right to vote in any United States election, except for prom queen and class president, which are political positions and don't matter one way or the other. I find it very that Reason Mag 19 to 29 millennial generation, it should be divided between like 19 and 20 and then 21 to 24, and then a 29-year-old is living in a different world than a 19-year-old. I can tell you that for a fact.
I agree with that. Psychologists will tell you that. I mean, brain development, it doesn't even complete until age 25.
I'm going to guess you're 26.
I'm 25.
Okay, I inferred that from having just listened to you, Derek J. I didn't Google you. I never have, never Googled anybody online that I can even think of, except for like maybe like real world import, not people's. Well, I was just guessing because I've listened to the level of maturity that you have on the public radios, and I've inferred from that and what you've said and what you believe.
Okay.
Not even knowing how old you are.
So you're going to let me vote?
I believe a 25-year-old should have the right to vote. But it is interesting, speaking of the Reason magazine.
Last 15 seconds, you got him.
If you take anybody that voted under the age of 30 and take their votes away from them in the last presidential election, Mitt Romney would be president of the United States right now. And it's not about the money, by the way. I want to tell you and Nathan both that, why people vote. Some Democrats vote for hand-me-outs. Yes, a lot of them do, but not Republicans. Not libertarians.
That's James in Arizona. This is Peace News Now. Thank you, James. Always appreciate your calls. Oh, he dropped off. Oh, there you're still there. Okay. Hey, so thanks for your call and sharing your thoughts. It's always entertaining.
Well, I wanted to bring up something about John Huntsman.
You
have the right. You have no right to crash somebody else's political party. No right whatsoever. And if I had been there, I would have told the cops, arrest him. Don't just run your asses out of the amphitheater. And I don't care if it's taxpayer money that built that amphitheater. You had no right to crash that man's party.
What do you call crashing? Attending?
You're attracting attention away from the person that is there that everybody came to see.
Actually, he wasn't even there yet.
Okay, Derek J.
Well, I think it's important, to be accurate.
I know how you guys say, well, speaking of being accurate, no, I didn't watch all 8 hours of your movie, but I did see the movie where he's in the stage, he's on stage.
No, that's stock footage. That's stock footage. He was not even there by the time we were kicked out.
Okay.
Hey, I appreciate it, but I'm going to drop your call there and let you know that accuracy is actually important when you're criticizing someone. So if you want to call me out for having done something wrong and say that I should have been arrested, well, maybe you should actually watch the video. I was at Keene State College when I was bounced in 2012 during the Huntsman campaign election. I was holding a sign that said, "Legalize freedom," and that was so offensive that the Keene police had to be called to remove me and my activist friends. So I don't see how that's crashing an event. It's a public event, open to the public. There were no ticket sales or anything. In fact, I even helped set up the event. I was helping organizers place chairs and give people places to sit. So I was actually helpful for much of the beginning of the program. But it was because I was holding a sign. before a speaker even came out on stage. That was the reason I was removed forcibly under threat of arrest from the Huntsman campaign at Keene State College. So, yeah, is it a crime? Should I have been arrested? James thinks so, but then again, James doesn't have all the facts. We'll be right back for the final segment of Peace News. If you're enjoying this program, go ahead and send me some Bitcoin. You can do that here from the QR code on your screen or this one. Thanks, guys.
The three most important things you can do for LRN.FM are: 1. Let your friends know you're listening to LRN.FM on your social networking profile. 2. Buy the things you buy online through shop.lrn.fm. 3. Give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm. It's my firm belief that the AMP program is the best use of your charitable dollar among liberty-oriented groups. Support all your favorite organizations, but make sure you give $5 a month to the AMP program at amp.lrn.fm.
Retail giant CVS is gearing up for floods of customers seeking the perfect meaningless piece of crap for their office gift swap. The company is making no secret that when it comes to wasting the obligatory $20 on a useless electronic dartboard or pretzel maker for someone you couldn't care less about, CVS is your best option.
Our incredible selection of worthless shit is just the thing that nobody wants. We guarantee you'll find nothing personal or unique in our store.
The company is offering massive discounts on otherwise unsellable items for holiday parties you don't even want to go to, like the $12 decorative lantern, which is expected to be a big hit with customers who grab the first thing they see when they walk in the store.
I really wanted to get something that said, I don't care about any of you people and I didn't put any effort into this.
CVS also has Hanukkah gifts for coworkers who you think might be Jewish, like candles and those little plastic net bags full of chocolate money.
This is the Onion News Network.
While our satellite channel is free to listen to, it's not free for us. You can help us cover our satellite costs with the chip-in on the right side of the page at lrn.fm.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of Peace News. So good to be with you this evening. I truly love broadcasting and engaging with you, the listeners, both in the chat room and live on the air. Even if some calls can be difficult, like James sometimes calling me out when he doesn't know all the facts about Derek J's victimless crime spree, which you, unlike James, can watch for free over at victimlesscrimespree.com. Get the various options there. There's even a 60-minute version if you've got ADD and you just can't stand to sit through a whole film. I've shortened it for you, so go enjoy all of that. It's all free, victimlesscrimespree.com, or go to the Pirate Bay and download the movie there. You can even torrent it yourself, and I encourage that. So go ahead. It's the 3-year anniversary today of my Live Free or Dance party, so I'm celebrating a little bit by playing different music. I know we're not going to be able to get to all of the important stories that I intended to cover today. Just a couple of headlines that I'll throw into the show notes for those of you who want to go to PeaceNewsNow.com and check them out. Reddit declares itself a new form of government. We're probably going to get to that next. Panera asks customers not to bring guns into their stores. Not sure if we'll have time for that one. eBay announces first foray into Bitcoin with Braintree. Definitely not going to have time for that, but very important. Maybe you could check out my show, Bitcoin Talk Show, tomorrow at bitcointalkshow.com at 3 p.m. Eastern. We always broadcast every week, have a host of various panelists who share their input, plus you can, once again, call in, take control, talk about whatever you want Bitcoin related, and I encourage you to do that. We'll be talking about that tomorrow, plus the Bitcoin community reacts to Apple's mobile payments platform. Honor with Maggie Hassan this week, which there's video up, or there soon will be video at freekeen.com and derekj.me. Plus, even Mark Zuckerberg is talking about how immigration in the U.S. is broken, how strange it is for a nation of immigrants to be so anti-immigration, and we just won't have time to get to all of these stories and more. Of course, your calls always come first. You can dial in 443-424-8347 or Skype us, Peace News Now. Now let's get to this Reddit story. We can just skip what millennials think about politics. We've really hit that one hard. You can learn more at reason.com. But now we turn to betabeat.com, where headline, Reddit declares itself a government. It may sound grandiose, but they're not entirely wrong. By Jack Smith IV. He writes, today, While government agencies try to intervene in the celebrity hacking crisis by chasing down the responsible black hat, most of the chaos surrounding the fappening has already come and gone. The stolen photos hit the internet, entire communities popped up, and moderators rushed in to control the mess the best they could. In that moment of extra-legal turmoil, responsibility fell on companies like Reddit, Twitter, and 4chan, reminding us that the most important modern channels of communication are in the hands of a few private companies. In response to the rapid growth of the Reddit/the Fappening subreddit, Reddit CEO Yishan Wang took to the official Reddit blog to explain why they would not be shutting it down. In the post, called "Every Man is Responsible for His Own Soul," he said, quote, "The reason is because we consider ourselves not just a website where one can post links and discuss them, but the government of a new type of community. The role and responsibility of a government differs from that of a private corporation in that it exercises restraint in the use of its powers." Or maybe he should have added that it should exercise restraint in the use of its powers. If that sounds like grandiose language for a social network, consider that if Facebook were a country, it would nearly be tied with China for the highest population. Consider that everything, from political organization to the way we move money, is tying itself to social media. But most of all, consider that we've allowed news feeds and social networks to become the primary sources of our information and media diets. We often say, "I get most of my news from Facebook or Twitter," without considering that there's certain content Facebook and Twitter won't let you see at all. Now, no one laments the death of a misogynist cesspool like the Fappening. But what about communities on Instagram that have become the last refuge for young people with eating disorders? What about the sometimes violent uprisings that organized on Twitter before overthrowing entire governments in the Middle East? What about the recent case of James Foley, a journalist who was brutally beheaded by ISIS last month? As soon as Twitter and YouTube could react, they began suspending the accounts of anyone circulating images and video of the beheading. It was a splash of cold water to the face for many who suddenly realized that Twitter could make certain content disappear. And there isn't a damn thing anyone can do about it. When Reddit or Twitter make a decision about what kind of content is or isn't acceptable, those choices affect the hundreds of millions of users who use those sites to get most of their information. The trouble is, there's nothing we can do about it. This is the moment when your average America-loving patriot invokes the First Amendment. But the First Amendment only restricts the power of the government, the actual government, the one with elected officials and mostly open records. Private corporations can't infringe on your First Amendment rights, and Reddit is perfectly aware of that from the post. We uphold the idea of free speech on Reddit as much as possible, not because we're legally bound to, but because we believe that you, the user, has the right to choose between right and wrong, good and evil, and that it is your responsibility to do so. It's good of Reddit to cheerlead for a more open internet, but they don't have to uphold those standards. This is optional and subject to their whims. Unlike a true democracy, those in charge of Reddit, along with their volunteer cohort of over 20,000 moderators, are not elected. They're not impeachable or even publicly accountable. There are other deplorable, even biliously hateful subreddits. Do they get to stay, or are they next? Now, you could argue that if Reddit did an about-face and became a bastion of censorship, its users would simply abandon the platform. But it's not clear that social media users care that much about tweaks made to privacy or censorship. Instagram actively shuts down communities built around certain hashtags, and Facebook is constantly making shady, unpopular choices around user data. But that hasn't slowed the growth of either platform. Sure, the media cries foul and a handful of readers show up to grumble, but eventually we all carry on sharing listicles and hating engagement photos. Hardly anyone actually leaves or fights back. Shortly after Mr. Wong's post went up, the Reddit/TheFappening was in fact shut down, and probably for the best. 1 minute it stays, the next it's gone. It could happen on any community, at any time, without explanation. After all, even if Reddit can be called a government, what we can't call it is a democracy. Okay, so this author, Jack Smith of The Observer and BetaBeat.com, obviously has his biases towards government and democracy. I happen to not be such a big fan, thinking democracy to be more two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. But he makes a good point that the world is moving to a digital space, and that the companies that control that digital private property are becoming governments unto their own, for better or worse. We've got to move on. I've got a couple of stories that are relevant to this. You know, this week I'm a moderator or admin over at the CopBlock webpage on Facebook, which has recently received over 1 million likes, thanks to everyone who likes CopBlock on Facebook. But one post was flagged for inappropriate content, and we were threatened, all admins, with the possibility that the entire CopBlock page would be taken down and suspended forever, simply because of that one post. Now, of course, it had nothing controversial in it. It was just another one of those CopBlock stories of teenagers being arrested for something teenagers do, and the police using a heavy-handed response. Unfortunately, you won't be able to see that post because Facebook censored it. So it goes with the new form of governments existing only on social media platforms. That does it for Peace News Now.
What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with...
Darn it! Oh, man, I hate it when I get cut off by the end of the show's music. I had more to say. I had more stories. I wanted to get to the Panera asks customers to not bring guns story, which you can read at gunsavelives.net. But unfortunately, tonight, I'm not going to be able to get to that. I appreciate all the callers who shared their views. We'll be back on Sunday, and I look forward to speaking with you. If you're into the Bitcoin stories, go check out bitcointalkshow.com. That's where I'll be broadcasting tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can also call into that program and share your thoughts about anything Bitcoin related. QR code for sending me Bitcoin is right here on your screen. I'll also display a big QR code for the end of the program. Thanks so much, everybody who listens and donates. It would not be possible to produce this content on a regular basis without you, the listener, and you, the sponsor. Thank you.
Internet streams, free satellite channel, or radio affiliates, no worries. You can listen to LRN.FM from any phone, anywhere. Add this number to your phone, 213-493-0309. It's a long-distance call, so make sure you're familiar with your phone's calling plan. The Liberty Radio Network listen lines are locked into our stream 24 hours a day. Call 213-493-0309. That's 213-493-0309.
Shiny badges on your jacket. Shiny badges.
This is Davi Barker from ShinyBadges.com, and I just want to personally apologize for airing a jingle week after week, month after month, that turned out to be such an infectious brainworm. So to make it up to you, I'm offering a free gift. The next time you make a purchase at ShinyBadges.com, write worms in the transaction comments, and I'll send you something weird.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting the latest liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at LRN.FM.
Ross